Okay, my name is Emily, and this is my persuasive speech, and this is my audience, and one person is joined via FaceTime. Picture this. You're confined in a dark space, overcrowded with hundreds of others like you. The smell in the factory is putrid and pungent, and you know for a fact that you're only being raised in this short life of yours to be killed off. Depressing, right? When you think of the farms, you might envision a big, red barn with happy animals and such, but in modern reality, very little of these farms exist ethically in comparison to the vast amount of factory farm infrastructures out there. I'm sure that when you go out to eat at McDonald's or you go to pick up chicken at Fred Meyer's, that the thought of where these animals originated from doesn't frequently cross your mind. It didn't for me either. But that is precisely why this matter is so important. In this speech, I'll persuade you into understanding how unethically factory farm animals are treated and shed light into why the factory farming industry should be changed. Factory farm animals are treated inhumanely, and the system of factory farming needs to be reformed. I have been in multiple courses throughout my community college experience, such as public health and as well as nutrition, and I've also done further research surrounding the implications of factory farming, and I hope to persuade you with these following points. Primarily, animals in factory farm are confided, and factory farming confides and harms these animals. They spend their lives in extremely crammed confinement. For instance, hens. And according to Mia Farrow from the Human League organization, egg-laying hens in battery cages receive floor spaces on the order of sheet of notebook paper per bird, which is obviously very small. And within these battery cages, there's as much as 4 birds fit into one confined cage. They have no room to flap their wings, no room to move, and it's pretty evident that it's not right. And hens aren't the only animals that are receiving this treatment. Piglets and pigs are confined into cold, bare, concrete floors. Because of the intensity of their environment, they are often stressed, and they often have to resort to biting and inflicting wounds upon their own pen mates, which obviously implicates infectious and diseases amongst that environment. The floors are often slick with feces and urine, and it is an unsightly scene. Animals are also commonly mutated through practices such as notching in pigs, tail docking, dehorning, debeaking in birds, teeth clipping, castration, and many more cruel practices. Now that you understand the conditions that these animals live within the factory farms itself, we can talk about the negative impacts that factory farming has on the environment. First off, livestock farms create environmental damage, and it is a major contributor to water as well as air pollution. Factory farms generate nearly 70% of the US ammonia emissions and as much as 1.4 billion tons of manure produced yearly. Industrial animal agriculture uses much of the scarce fresh water supply within the world. And in the United States, it's responsible for nearly half of the water consumption in our country. Factory farming and animal agriculture is at hand for almost half the world's methane emissions, which is evidently detrimental for the environment due to greenhouse emissions and the implications it has for things such as global warming. Not only are factory farms detrimental and horrible for the environment, but these industries also pose health risks to the general population as well. Animals in factory farms are fed with hormones. They're pumped with antibiotics because of the unsanitary conditions that they live in, and they also eat from unnatural feeds, meaning that the humans like you and I that consume animals from these factories have risks towards obesity. We have risks of having drug-resistant bacteria and other disease outbreaks caused from these unsanitary conditions. The World Health Organization has labeled processed meat as a Group 1 carcinogen, And if you don't know, carcinogens are things that cause cancer within people, as well as the Center for Disease and Control stating that 75% of emerging infectious diseases in people come from animals. I hope that after learning about these devastating impacts of factory farming, we can have a clear stance onto why a change needs to happen in our agricultural systems. And in summary, not only are factory farming animals treated inhumanely, but the system of factory farming as a whole and the livestock agricultural system in the world needs to be reformed. So, let's review the main points. Factory farming confines and harms animals, as well as livestock farms. They create environmental damage within the world, and they're a major contributor to water and air pollution. Factory farming poses a risk to public health and human populations. I hope that learning about these reasons gives you a way to stray away from factory farming, and it lets you make empowered decisions, such as sourcing locally and not from these factory farms. I hope that with receiving this knowledge that you're able to spread awareness as well of the practices that happens behind closed doors, so that when you do go a trip to, let's say, McDonald's, that you might choose to opt for something not only more healthier, but more ethically sourced.